When I was growing up, our house was like a sanctuary, tucked away on a quiet cul-de-sac, surrounded by old oak trees in a neighborhood where everyone knew everyone. It felt safe. The kind of safe where you left your doors unlocked at night, where kids played freely until the streetlights came on, and the only real worry was whether you'd remembered to bring the trash cans in. This was almost 15 years ago now, but I still remember every detail of that night as if it were yesterday. I was 16, old enough to feel like an adult, but still young enough to crave the freedom of an empty house. My parents were heading out for their anniversary dinner, a fancy place downtown, meaning they wouldn't be back until late. My older brother Mark was off at college, so it was just me. Pure, unadulterated solitude, the kind a teenager dreams of. No one to tell you what to do, no one hogging the TV, just uninterrupted bliss. They left me with enough money for takeout. My usual go-to was the local Chinese place, Golden Dragon. Their General Tso's was legendary. I waved them off from the porch, watching their car disappear down the street, and then the quiet descended. It wasn't an empty quiet, not yet. It was the good kind of quiet, filled with the promise of a night spent binging bad reality TV and eating straight from the carton. I ordered my food around 7 p.m. The usual delivery guy, a kind older man with a gentle smile, brought it to the door. We exchanged pleasantries. He knew my parents, knew our order. It was all so normal. He wished me a good night, and I closed the door, already smelling the sweet and sour goodness wafting from the bag. The night unfolded exactly as planned. I set up camp in the living room, sprawled on the couch with a mountain of pillows, the TV humming softly, and a carton of General Tso's on my lap. Hours melted away. I remember flipping channels, half watching some cheesy rom-com, half scrolling through my phone. The house was warm, dimly lit by the TV screen, and utterly peaceful. It must have been close to midnight when I felt the first prickle of unease. Not a sound, not a sight, just a shift in the air, a subtle wrongness that made the hairs on my arms stand up. It was like the silence had deepened, grown heavier, pressing in from the outside. I paused the movie, straining my ears. Nothing, just the faint hum of the refrigerator from the kitchen and the distant chirping of crickets. I tried to shake it off. Probably just tired, I thought. Too much sugar, too much screen time. I got up to stretch, wandering into the kitchen for a glass of water. Our kitchen had a large sliding glass door that led out to the backyard patio. It was dark outside, the kind of inky blackness that swallows all light, and our yard was surrounded by a dense hedge and a wooden fence. From inside, it was impossible to see anything beyond a few feet without the patio lights on. As I filled my glass, I glanced out the sliding door. My reflection stared back, distorted slightly by the dim kitchen lights. And then I saw it, or thought I saw it. A faint, almost imperceptible shadow just at the edge of the patio, beyond the reach of the faint kitchen glow. It was gone in an instant. A trick of the light, I told myself, my own reflection playing tricks on me. I went back to the living room, but the easy comfort was gone. The rom-com felt grating, the couch suddenly less inviting. I kept glancing toward the front windows, the ones that looked out onto the cul-de-sac. Our curtains were always drawn at night, a habit my mom instilled in us from a young age. "Privacy, sweetie," she'd always say. Now that privacy felt less like a shield and more like a blindfold. I decided to just turn everything off and head to bed. Maybe a good night's sleep would reset whatever creepy vibe had settled over the house. I walked through the living room, turning off lamps, the house plunging into deeper shadows with each flick of a switch. As I reached the last lamp by the front door, a subtle sound, so quiet it was almost a vibration, caught my attention. Click. It was the sound of our front gate latch, the one that led from the sidewalk up our short pathway to the front door. It was a distinctive click, one I'd heard 1,000 times when the mailman or a neighbor came by. But it was well past midnight, and it was a soft click, almost as if someone was trying to be quiet. My breath hitched. I froze, my hand still on the lamp switch. The house was now utterly silent, save for the frantic beating of my own heart. I listened, every nerve ending screaming. There was no follow-up sound, no footsteps on the path, no knock on the door, no ring of the doorbell. Just silence. A thick, oppressive silence that felt heavier than the darkness. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, probably only a minute or two, my mind racing. Should I check? Number, definitely not. My parents had always drilled into me the importance of never opening. The rhythmic thumping against the side of the house under my window continued, each thump a direct hit to my chest. It wasn't random, it was deliberate, almost playful, like someone was enjoying the terror they were inflicting. I was frozen, huddled against the wall in my parents' darkened bedroom, my eyes glued to the sliver of curtain that still showed nothing but the inky blackness of the night. My mind was screaming at me to move, to do something, but my body felt heavy, rooted to the spot by an invisible force. I had to get my phone. It was downstairs on the coffee table in the living room, a mere 20 feet from the front door where he was. Going down there felt like signing my own death warrant, but I couldn't just stay here, waiting. The thumping stopped as suddenly as it had begun. The silence that followed was even worse. It felt pregnant with anticipation, like a deep breath before a scream. I held my own breath, straining to hear anything at all. Then, a new sound. So faint at first, I almost dismissed it as my imagination. A gentle scraping. It sounded like something being dragged lightly across the concrete patio in the backyard. My stomach lurched. The backyard. The sliding glass door. The one I had just peered out of. Moments before this nightmare began. I knew, with a horrifying certainty, that he wasn't at the front anymore. He was circling, and he knew I was alone. The question from the pizza guy earlier that night, "You alone here?" echoed in my head like a death knell. Was it connected? Could he have told someone? Or was this something else entirely? My parents had told me never to engage, never to let anyone know I was home alone. But I'd seen him. He'd seen me. Or at least, he knew someone was in the house. The way he'd stepped out from the shadows, that blank, staring face. It wasn't just a random person. It felt personal. I had to move. Stealth was my only weapon. I crept out of my parents' room, moving like a ghost down the hallway. Every creak of the floorboards, every whisper of my clothes against my skin, sounded like a thunderclap in the oppressive silence. My goal was the kitchen. Not to get the landline, but to lock the sliding door. I remembered closing it, but had I locked it? In my panicked state, I couldn't recall. As I neared the top of the stairs, I heard it again. The scraping sound, louder this time, definitely from the backyard. It was a slow, deliberate sound, like someone dragging a heavy object, or perhaps a piece of furniture. My mind flashed to the old wooden patio chairs we kept outside. Were they trying to get to a window? My heart pounded with a new kind of terror. What if he was trying to climb in? I reached the kitchen door, which was thankfully closed. I slowly, carefully turned the doorknob. It gave way silently. The kitchen was plunged in darkness, save for the faint glow from the streetlights filtering through the window above the sink. I could barely make out the outline of the fridge. I crept towards the sliding glass door, my bare feet silent on the tile floor. My hand reached out, fumbling for the lock. It was already locked. A wave of relief, so potent it almost made my knees buckle, washed over me. At least that was something, but the scraping continued, now accompanied by a faint metallic clink, like tools or something hitting glass. My eyes darted to the window above the sink. It was open a crack, just enough to let in the humid summer air. My mom often left it like that during the day. Had I closed it before she left? I always did, but my memory was fuzzy with fear. Suddenly the scraping stopped, and then a whisper, so soft, so low, I almost convinced myself I imagined it. It wasn't a word, not really, more like a hissing sound, a drawn-out shh, right outside the open window. My blood ran cold. He was right there, directly outside the window. He could hear me breathe. He could probably feel my fear radiating through the glass. I stood absolutely still, my body rigid, breath held tight in my chest. I didn't dare move, didn't dare even blink. The air in the kitchen grew heavy, suffocating. I could almost feel his presence, cold and predatory, just inches away. The whispering stopped. And then, without warning, a loud, sharp rap on the glass. Crack! Not a polite knock, not a gentle tap. It was a jarring, violent impact that made me jump, letting out a choked whimper. It sounded like something had hit the window with force. My eyes shot to the window. In the dim light, I could make out a dark shape pressed against the pane, directly where the sound had come from. It was a hand, a large hand, palm flat against the glass, pushing, and then I saw it, shimmering in the faint light, a glint of something metallic in his other hand, a knife. He was there, and he was trying to get in. I scrambled backward, tripping over a chair, hitting the floor with a painful thud. The sound echoed in the silent kitchen. I knew he heard it. He must have. My heart was now a frantic hummingbird in my chest. Panic, cold and sharp, seized me. I had to call. Now. Forget the phone downstairs. I needed to get to my cell phone. It was upstairs, in my bedroom, charging on my nightstand. I crawled on my hands and knees out of the kitchen, back into the dark hallway. Every nerve ending was screaming. I could almost feel his eyes on me, even through the wall. I got to the base of the stairs, scrambling up them as fast as I could without making too much noise. Halfway up, I heard another sound from downstairs. A soft, almost imperceptible creak of the floorboards, but it wasn't from the kitchen. It was from the living room, where my phone was, where I had just been. He was inside. My blood ran cold. The thought paralyzed me for a moment, my foot hovering above the next step. How? The front door was locked, the back door was locked, the window was only cracked. He couldn't have fit, unless he had forced it or found another way. My breath hitched. I pushed myself faster, practically flying up the remaining stairs. My bedroom. Get to my bedroom. Lock the door, call for help. I burst into my room, fumbling for the light switch. My hands were shaking so violently I couldn't grip it. I threw myself at the door, twisting the small knob and pushing it shut. The click of the lock was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard. I spun around looking for my phone. It was still on the charger, glowing faintly on my nightstand. I lunged for it, my fingers fumbling on the screen as I tried to unlock it. Then, from the hallway outside my bedroom door, I heard it. Footsteps, slow, deliberate, heavy. They weren't my parents' footsteps. They weren't Mark's. These were weighted, dragging, methodical. They paused outside my door. I held my breath, clutching my phone like a lifeline. A soft scratching sound started at the bottom of the door, like fingernails, long, slow drags across the wood. It was so faint, so chilling, it made my skin crawl. Then, a gentle push against the door. He was testing it. My eyes flew to the small lock on my door. It was a simple, old lock, barely more than a privacy latch. It wouldn't hold against a determined push. The scratching stopped, and then a new sound. So quiet, so terrifyingly intimate. A sigh, a long, drawn-out exhalation right outside my door. It was ragged, almost desperate. And then a faint, almost guttural hum. A low, tuneless sound that sent shivers down my spine. He was right there, and he knew I was inside. I finally managed to unlock my phone. My thumb hovered over my mom's number, but I hesitated. What if he heard me talking? What if he knew I was calling the police? The humming continued, a soft, disturbing melody. And then, the doorknob, slowly, painstakingly, began to turn. It turned until it clicked against the locked mechanism. Then it tried again, and again, gently, persistently, like he was curious, like he was playing a game. I pressed myself against the wall furthest from the door, my phone still clutched in my hand. My breath was coming in short, shallow gasps. My mind was screaming for an escape, but there was nowhere to go. My window overlooked the front yard, a drop too far to attempt. The turning of the doorknob stopped. The humming stopped. Silence. Then, a faint, almost imperceptible creak. It sounded like the floorboards from the hallway, just outside my door. The weight had shifted. Was he leaving? Or just waiting? My heart hammered. I had to risk it. I quickly dialed my mom's number. It rang once, twice. Each ring felt deafening in the silence of the house. My mom finally picked up on the fifth ring, her voice groggy with sleep and a hint of irritation. "Hello?" she mumbled. Before she could say anything else, the words tumbled out of me in a frantic rush. "Mom, there's someone here. Someone's in the house. I think he's in the living room." My voice was a choked whisper, raw with terror. The sleepiness vanished from her tone instantly. "What? What are you talking about? Are you okay? Are you in your room?" she demanded, her voice now sharp with alarm. "Yes, I'm in your room. I locked the door," I stammered, my eyes darting towards the locked door, as if the very sound of my voice might betray me. He was at the window, and then I heard him inside. Footsteps. I heard footsteps. My mom's voice was suddenly much louder, more urgent. I could hear rustling on her end, then my dad's deeper voice asking what was going on. "Get in the car, we're coming home right now," she commanded, her voice vibrating with barely contained panic. "And call the police. Tell them what's happening." I could hear her telling my dad to call 911, her voice rising in pitch. "Stay on the phone with me. Don't hang up," she insisted. "Do you hear anything right now? Anything at all?" I pressed my ear against the wall, straining to hear over the pounding of my heart. The house was utterly silent again, a heavy, suffocating quiet. "No," I whispered. "It's quiet now." But he was right outside my door. He was humming. The memory sent a fresh wave of nausea through me. "Just stay put. Do not move. Do not make a sound," she reiterated, her voice firm, trying to project calm she clearly didn't feel. "The police are on their way. Your dad just got off the phone with them. They're telling us they're ETA. Just stay quiet." Minutes stretched into an eternity. Each second was an agonizing wait. Every shadow seemed to move, every creak of the house a harbinger of doom. I kept my eyes fixed on the door, imagining the simple lock giving way, the doorknob slowly turning, the blank face appearing in the gap. Then from downstairs came a faint, unmistakable clatter. It sounded like something falling in the kitchen, followed by a soft, almost muffled thump. It was quick, like someone had bumped something and quickly tried to catch it. He was still in the house. He was exploring. "Mom!" I whispered into the phone, my voice cracking. "I heard something downstairs. In the kitchen, I think." There was a muffled exclamation from my mom's end, a quick exchange with my dad. Then her voice came back, tight with suppressed fear. "They said to tell you to hide. Hide under the bed, now." My parents' bed was a massive king-size monstrosity, a heavy wooden frame that sat low to the ground. It was a tight squeeze, but I managed to contort myself, pulling my knees to my chest, my body trembling uncontrollably. The dust bunnies and forgotten socks under the bed provided no comfort. The phone was pressed so hard against my ear it hurt. I lay there, listening, my eyes squeezed shut. The silence stretched again, but this time it was different. It felt like it was listening too. Then the footsteps returned, slow, deliberate. They were closer this time, ascending the stairs. Creak, creak, creak. My blood ran cold. He was coming up. The footsteps reached the top of the stairs, directly above the living room. They paused. I could hear the faint sound of floorboards creaking, indicating movement. He was moving down the hallway, away from my parents' room at first. I remembered my brother's room, then my own, both just down the hall. He must be checking them. My mom's voice, barely a whisper on the phone, confirmed my fears. "The police are almost there, honey. Don't move. Don't make a sound. They're going to force their way in." The footsteps grew closer again, now unmistakable. They were coming back down the hall, towards my parents' bedroom. My heart hammered against my ribs, so loud I was sure he could hear it. Each step was a hammer blow to my chest. Thump, thump, thump. The footsteps stopped. Right outside my parents' bedroom door, I heard the doorknob jiggle, a soft click-clack as it was turned, gently at first, then with a bit more force, pressing against the lock. He tried it a few times, testing its strength. I imagined his blank face, inches from the wood, his eyes narrowed, calculating. Then, a new sound, so quiet, so utterly chilling. A soft, almost caressing scratch against the door, just above the doorknob, like he was tracing the outline of the lock with a fingernail. It was the sound of someone not trying to break in forcefully, but experimenting, learning. It felt deeply, unsettlingly intimate. The scratching stopped, and then a faint sigh. Just like before, a long, drawn-out sound right there, inches from where I lay trembling under the bed. It was a sigh of contemplation, or perhaps mild annoyance. Then the footsteps began to retreat, slow, deliberate, echoing down the hallway. I heard them descend the stairs, the creaks fading as they moved deeper into the house. He was downstairs again. My mom was still whispering updates, mostly to herself, probably relaying what I'd heard to my dad on the other line. "Stay still, sweetie, just a little longer. They're here." I heard the distinct sound of car tires on gravel from outside. Then the flashing blue and red lights painted the windows for a fleeting moment. A moment later, a loud, urgent pounding on the front door. "Police! Open up!" A male voice boomed. My mom immediately said, "They're here! They're here! You can come out now!" I started to crawl out from under the bed, my muscles stiff and aching. As I emerged, I heard the front door being forced open with a loud crack, followed by the rapid thud of heavy boots on our hardwood floors. "Police! Clear!" The shouts echoed through the house. I scrambled up, my legs wobbly. A voice called out, firm and authoritative. My mom's voice came through the phone. "It's okay, honey. Open the door. They're officers." I stumbled to the door, fumbling with the lock. When it finally clicked open, I yanked it open. 2 police officers stood there, large and imposing in their uniforms, their faces etched with concern. One of them, a burly man with kind eyes, immediately knelt down to my level. "Are you okay? Is anyone else in the house?" I could only shake my head, tears finally starting to stream down my face. My mom was still on the phone, reassuring me. The officers quickly began to clear the house. They didn't have to kick down the back door. It was standing wide open, the sliding glass panel pushed fully to one side. The screen was ripped, hanging in shreds. They found no one. The house was empty. My parents arrived moments later, frantic, rushing in through the still open front door. My mom immediately pulled me into a fierce hug, tears in her eyes. The officers took my statement, going over every detail, from the pizza delivery guy's strange question to the thumping, the scraping, the hand on the window, and the footsteps inside. When I mentioned the pizza guy, my mom's face tightened. "He asked if you were alone?" "Why didn't you tell us that earlier?" she asked, a mix of anger and fear in her voice. They took a detailed description of the man I'd seen outside. Tall, gaunt, blank face, dark clothing. They took notes on the damaged screen and the open back door. The house was processed for fingerprints, but they found nothing conclusive. No strange prints, just ours. The backyard had no clear footprints, as the ground was mostly dry and hard. The next day, my dad and I went to Golden Dragon. The friendly older delivery guy wasn't there. We asked the manager about him, describing him. The manager said he was off that day. We asked about anyone new, anyone who might fit the description of the man who asked if I was alone. The manager looked confused, then a little annoyed. He said he had no new hires fitting that description. He insisted all his delivery drivers were well-vetted, long-time employees. My parents were furious. They demanded to see employee records, threatened to call the health department, but the manager just told us to leave. We never got answers. The police investigation eventually went cold. There was no physical evidence to link anyone, no real motive. To this day, I don't know who was outside that night. Was it the pizza guy, somehow connected to him, using that information? Was it just a random, deranged individual? The police theory leaned towards a drifter, someone who simply saw an opportunity. But I remember that blank, staring face, the deliberate way he moved, the chilling hum outside my door. It didn't feel random. It felt like I was being hunted. We moved a year later. My parents said it was for a new job opportunity, a fresh start. But I always knew, deep down, it was because the house, our sanctuary,